Okay, parents, it's mid January. That means that you probably have just received a notification from your child's school with their latest test scores. And with that notification, you may have been informed that your child has fallen below grade level in certain content areas. You may have even gotten a letter or notification that says that based on the latest test scores, your child may need to repeat this grade level next year. And your response is, wait, what? Why didn't I know about this? How is it possible that my child has gotten to this point? And most importantly, you're probably wondering, there are 5 months left in the school year. What can I do to help? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to be giving you some things that you can do to help your child, some ways that you can keep them encouraged at this point in the school year, and more importantly, some things that you can do in order to give them the skills that they need in order to be caught up, ready, and on grade level by the end of this year. Okay, the first thing that you can do to help your child is very basic and simple, and that is to actually talk to them about the test. When you get those test scores back, sit down with your child and ask them a question like, "What was your testing like?" And then listen carefully to what they tell you. They may say something like, "I don't like testing because it's hard." If they say that, ask them, "Why was it hard?" And then listen carefully to what they say. I've had students tell me things like, "It was hard because I couldn't see it very well." And then I would follow that up with more questions and sometimes find out that the print that the students were trying to read was actually way too small for them. And they have visual issues that don't allow them to read that very clearly. I've also had students tell me the test was hard because I couldn't hear it. There was an auditory issue. I had one child tell me that they had headphones on that were supposed to be giving them instruction, and the headphones were malfunctioning, so they couldn't hear what they were being told to do. So, listening to anything that indicates that your child may have a visual issue or an auditory issue when they're taking these tests on the computer, that is very, very important. And any of those difficulties need to be communicated immediately to the teacher and to the school. Another thing students might tell you when you ask them, "How do you feel about the test?" is they may say something like, "Well, testing is very frustrating." When they use a word like frustrating, that indicates usually that there was an issue with the test itself. Um, Sometimes they say, "I had a problem and it was frustrating because my computer wasn't working properly," or "the screen kept freezing up." Or so I've had them tell me that they were supposed to be scrolling and the computer was not scrolling properly. So that would definitely create a real problem with their ability to answer the question, with their ability in reading to refer back to a passage that they read and find information in order to answer the questions. Another obstacle that often gets in the way, that is an issue with the testing itself, is the clock factor. Students are often very distracted and sometimes very intimidated by the clock, and they respond in different ways. Some students are so afraid that they're going to run out of time that they rush through the test rather than being thoughtful, and they guess because they're afraid that time is going to be up and they're not going to finish. Other students try to work a little bit more slowly, but the whole time that they are supposed to be focusing on the test, they are distracted by wondering, "How much time do I have left?" Or panicking and thinking, "Oh, this is taking me too long. I'm not going to get to the next question." So the clock is a constant distraction. And if they mention the clock at all, that's an indication that we need to step in and we need to teach them the skills that they need in order to ignore the clock. And that does not come naturally to a child. That's a skill that they have to learn. And then another thing to listen for is if they say something like, "I did not understand what to do." If they say that, ask them, "What do you mean by that?" Do you mean that you were supposed to be multiplying and you didn't remember how to multiply the problem? Did you mean that you read this passage and you didn't understand what the passage said? Or did you mean that you didn't understand what the test was asking you to do? And oftentimes, when I ask them, what do you mean you didn't understand? I find that it wasn't the material or the concepts that they didn't understand. It was actually the testing process itself, which again, obviously, could dramatically impact their scores on these tests. So, step number one, talk to your child, ask them how they felt about the test, what they think about the test, what was the classroom atmosphere like, all of those questions. Listen carefully to what they say, and then communicate any issues with the test itself immediately to your child's classroom teacher or to the school.